I don't think we have anyone excused from the meeting today. Again, welcome everyone. Happy New Year to everyone. Todd, have you got us online?
Good morning. Yes, you are online and good to go.
We're good. Okay, thank you. With that, I will go to item number 3, adoption of the minutes. Everyone's had an opportunity to look at the minutes. Are there any errors or omissions, and then subsequent to that, if there are any, a motion to approve the minutes of the December 22nd, 2022 meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Lynette, thank you. All in favor of that motion, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you. Call for post-agenda items. Are there any additional agenda items that won't already come up on the agenda related to other matters that are on the agenda? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda would be in order. Neil? Oh, go ahead, Neil.
I was voting for it, but I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor of the motion, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you. Question period. Are there any questions from anyone in the audience or notices of motion? Seeing none, we'll move on. I'm going to suggest, NRSC Cole is here this morning. Welcome. And I'm going to suggest that we take your report right away, so it'll freeze you up to go when you need to or want to. So we'll move to item number 10.1. Oh yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Cole.
Thank you very much. I'd like to take this time to wish everybody a happy new year. It's the first time seeing you. So. Short little report today. It's nothing too major. We'll start off with the Hamlet distribution and wastewater systems. We had a couple leaks in Tilly over the last month and a half or so. They weren't huge, but they were a little persistent and a little problematic. So we had one at 35 2nd Avenue East. It was a service line to a home. It was leaking. Took a little bit of time to find it and hydrovacuuming it. What had happened about 20 years ago, that property had a house fire. It was burnt down. After the aftermath of that, they moved on a different house, and the lot was changed a little bit from what it was originally 20 years ago. So there was an addition of an alleyway on that property that didn't exist before that. So the service line and the valve for it wasn't exactly where they normally kind of are, and it took a little bit to find it, but that being said, it was fixed within a short period of time, all things considered. And it's back up and going as it should be, kind of thing. So we didn't have to do any widespread service disruptions to anybody else. It was just the service line to that one house, so it didn't affect anybody else, and it was placed back into service with relatively no issues. We also had another one that here again, decades ago, there was obviously some kind of agreement made with a resident that doesn't live right in the boundary of Tilly. It's to the east of Tilly, that is getting potable water from the hamlet. So it's a very long service line, and the valve for it happens to be close to the school. That service line was leaking, and it was causing a widespread wet area at the school right around the track and field track. So that was noticed and found, repaired, and moving forward, as far as usually it goes from the shut-off valve, the isolation valve, to the homeowner's property. That's their financial responsibility. But because this one is outside the norm, the good folks in your engineering department and building department is going to have to come up with an agreement with them moving forward and stuff like that. But it was repaired, and everything's back in working order there. And again, that was just the one resident that was affected, so the rest of the hamlet didn't have any service disruptions. So those were the two leaks that we noticed over the last couple months. So all in all, for this winter and the wild temperature fluctuations, we're doing pretty good. So I'm happy with that. Over to wastewater, we were replacing some impellers on lift station pumps in the county-owned hamlets. So Scandia and Tilly got some new impellers put on the lift station pumps for sewage pumping. So that was all completed this week, and everything's back working as it should. And we've noticed some pumping gains due to that, due to that it's brand new equipment again, and it's working really, really well. So I'm really happy with that. And then the County of Newell Rural Water Project, everybody knows that phase 2 started just before Christmas. They kind of started slow just to see how the process was going to go, and 3 new connections were made before Christmas. And as of as recently as yesterday, the contractors, NRSC and the county are all coordinating to fire back up again, and they're talking and starting up again. So that's progressing as we would like to see it as well. And then just a quick update on the assessment that MPE Engineering did at the Lake Newell Resort Lift Station. We unfortunately had some scheduling conflicts. I had mentioned in my last report that we were going to meet with the engineering department here at the county and Mark Harbeck sit down and talk about the report that MP gave us. We weren't able to do that, but we do have another meeting scheduled for this coming Monday. So Jeff, Mark, myself, and Ryan, my operations supervisor, are going to sit down together, the 4 of us, and kind of go over the hierarchy of what they determined was imminent and needs to be done right away, and then some of the things that can be pushed off later, and the cost associated with all those recommendations from the report. So next, I keep on saying this a lot, but hopefully next meeting I'll be able to give you guys a breakdown of what we've decided and how we're going to attack it. That completes my report. If there's any questions.
Thanks, Cole. Are there any questions? Council? Seeing none, thanks for coming in this morning.
You're welcome.
Appreciate the report. Thanks. That takes us back to item number 7 on our agenda, bylaws, and we'll move to bylaw item number 7.1, bylaw 2025-22 road closure and lease. Maria, please, you're going to take us through that.
Thank you. The purpose of this application is to close the road allowance along the westerly boundary of the west half of 82318 to facilitate a free-range chicken roaming pen. So it is recommended that second and third reading be given to bylaw 2025-22. The following approvals have been received. Approval to proceed was given on February 10th, 2022, public hearing and first reading on March 10th, and then we received Alberta Transportation approval on December 12th. The lands are in Division 9, approximately 16 kilometers north of the town of Bizano. All the lands in this area are in the Agriculture General District of the Land Use Bylaw. The applicant has applied to the NRCB to construct a new layer barn and to increase the number of chicken layers and associated pellets from 13,000 to 46,000 birds. The applicant would like to fence the road allowance for a free range roaming pen, which would be connected to the proposed barn that's constructed just adjacent to the road allowance. Fortis and ATCO Gas had no concerns with the proposed road closure, and there were no comments from any other referral agencies. The applicant owns the land on all sides of the proposed road closure. So it is recommended that second and third reading be given. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Holly, you've got a question, please, or a motion?
I'd like to motion second reading.
Okay, I will accept that motion. All in favor of the motion to approve second reading, that's carried. Thank you. Getting quite a ways down. Lynette, please.
I'll make the motion for third reading.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All in favor of approving third reading? That's carried. Thank you. That covers that. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's it for today, I think, right?
There's one more
Oh, I'm
subdivision
sorry, yes.
extension.
Yeah, that's right. 9.1. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a subdivision approval extension request for subdivision decision 2021-0-006. This subdivision is also known as the North Headgates. So the applicant is requesting additional time to satisfy the conditions of the subdivision approval and obtain the necessary consents for registration at land titles. The original subdivision decision was rendered in July of 2022. The subdivision application package and the decision have been attached for your review. As per the MGA, if a plan of subdivision is not endorsed by the municipality within 1 year from the date on which the subdivision approval is given, the plan may not be accepted by land titles unless council grants an extension. So in reviewing the application and the approval granted, it appears the subdivision is still acceptable as the proposal continues to meet the criteria of the land use bylaw, the direct control district, and the subdivision authority bylaw. So the applicant has provided the county with the final surveyor package, the final plans of survey. All outstanding property taxes have been paid and all development required to be removed have been removed. And there are encroachment agreements that have been completed. So he's really close. The last remaining item is a required consent from a bank. And it has proven to be very difficult to get. So there are options that the council grant the extension or refuse the extension, but it is recommended that council grants the extension for 1 year.
Thank you, Maria. Questions for Kelly first and then Lynette, please.
Actually, no question.
Oh, okay.
Through the chair, if you'd accept a motion, I would make a motion to approve this extension.
Okay, I'll accept that motion, but are there questions? Lynette, you've got questions. Thank you.
I just have one question. I am in favor of moving this, but what's with the consent from the bank, and is that ever going to happen? Like, is us giving them an extension, is that actually helpful for them? Like, where are we going to go with this?
Go ahead, Maria. Thank you for the question.
So consents are required for the subdivision for anyone that's registered on title. In this case, there is a mortgage that's registered on the title for a development that's not owned by the landowner. So they're dealing with a few different people, I suppose, in that. So I do think that this extension will give them enough time to sort it out and deal with what needs to happen. And maybe even light a fire, hopefully.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Further questions, Holly?
Yeah, just two quick things I was confused about. One is if the original decision was given in July of 21, we're at like 18 months. It says July of 21, so I'm not getting it to add up. And the second thing is it says the MR is block 5, lot 1, but there is no block 5, lot 1 shown in what you've given us. So I'm just wondering how that matches up.
I'll go ahead. Maria, please. Yeah.
You're right. It was 2021, not 2022. So there is the ability for staff to give a little bit of flexibility on this extension. And so I know the applicant has been working hard to get this consent. So I did give a little bit of flexibility there, but now because that 18 months is hit, that's why this extension now needs to be granted. The MR is actually this piece right here. So municipal reserve was given as land instead of cash. So that's that portion there.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any further questions? We have a motion on the floor to approve the extension as per the recommendation. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. Opposed? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. Thanks, Maria. With that, we'll move back to item number 8.1, Agriculture Services Business. Mr. Todd Green, welcome. Good morning.
I understand that my microphone wasn't working earlier, so you didn't hear me say good morning, but...
and Happy New Year.
Yes, and Happy New Year to you guys as well. So just a quick verbal update for everybody today. We have been motoring on the CCIP front, our Coyote Control Incentive Program. A fair number of coyotes have come in through the shop. We also just recently signed up our second partner to help us out with that. So we have Micah Crop from the Tilly area that's helping us out. And then Beasley Fur is also helping us out again. Two long-term kind of partners that we've been working together with them for a long time. So the benefit of guys when they take them to whether it's Micah or Beasley's is they don't have to deal with the hides and the carcasses themselves. When they bring them to the shop, we don't take them. So at least there's some benefit to going to those other guys as well. So we're happy to see that rolling. Lots of great conversations we've had. I think a lot of people are very excited to have the program back, especially because hides are not really worth a ton this year, if anything at all. And there wasn't a lot of incentive for people to control any. So this is just a little bit more of that incentive. We did try to do a coyote survey in December. Well, in fact, we did it, but it was that really cold week. We thought it was a good week. There was some snow coming. The premise behind it is you put out the scent baits on the first day, and then you monitor tracks for 4 days. The best part is if you get a little bit of snow overnight or during the day, and then the next day you can see fresh tracks. Our problem was it was minus 30 that week, and we had wind overnight every single night, and it just kept covering the tracks. So a little bit of unfortunate scenarios, but once you have the stink out, you got to kind of go and count no matter what. So we're going to try again. We're hoping early February before breeding season. And we're not exactly sure how it's going to work, but we have to try because it just was no good results. I think we counted 15 tracks in 4 days, which is really unfortunate. That does not speak to what the population is anyways. So we've been also working in the shop quite a bit. We finally, I think we're receiving our last piece of capital that we purchased in 2022 or that we ordered in 2022. So we have our no-till drill that's supposed to be showing up this week. Exciting to have that and get the old one en route to its new owner. Howard has also been doing some new fire pits for Emerson Bridge Park, done an amazing job. We've been relatively cost efficient with our fire pits down in Emerson. They're kind of small gauge metal, just a ring, couple holes in them kind of thing. But for our new sites, we wanted the full service sites, we wanted something a little more substantial. So it's going to have a little grill on the top of it, a nice little warming plate. He's done an amazing job, done it all in-house. I didn't even know we had that availability, that expertise, but if you guys ever want to see a good welder and blowtorch guy, that's Howard. So anyways, I'm kind of getting off topic here. We were excited to have Donovan Kopp start with us on the 3rd. He's been going to be taking over doing what Catherine has been doing for us. So he's here for a couple of years, hopefully. Huge learning curve. Donovan had worked with us as a vegetation management technician, so the actual physical hands-on work that's required for spraying and vegetation management, our weed control programming. But now he's doing all the planning for those things and trying to work with some different producers, and that's a lot different than just physically going out and spraying or picking or monitoring weeds. So we're excited to be training him, and I think he's going to do a great job. Speaking of new people, our job ads are going out next week. If you know of any young people that are looking for a job, kind of 4.5 months over the summer season, make sure you reach out to them. We're really, we're looking for a lot of people this year. And I think municipal services is as well. So we often interview the same people and just try to figure out which ones fit best in which program. So if you know of young people, university students are a good fit for us. It's kind of that May to August timeframe. So please let us know or let them know and get a job application in. So we got our last piece of stuff from 2022, the no-till drill, and we're just currently getting out all our quotes and tenders for the new stuff. So hoping to get some new things in the lineup this year. And just kind of the last few days kind of came out of nowhere, but there's a fella coming down from Edmonton to talk at a few different municipalities in the south about shelter belts and trees and tree pests. And he reached out, or actually one of the municipalities reached out and said, hey, we're bringing this guy down. We could share some of the costs if you guys wanted to put together a seminar as well. So one of the things that Donovan is going to be doing is putting together a shelter belt workshop. So we're hoping second week of March, train a little bit on, shelter belt preparation, shelter belt planting, kind of best practices, as well as I think we're going to hit on a little bit of pruning and some insects and disease, because those are some pretty hot topics around here. We have amazing trees, but they're all kind of getting older, and some pruning and some disease kind of tends to come in. So that's kind of what we've been working on, I guess, high level.
Thank you, Todd. Are there any questions or comments? Matt, please.
I don't know if Sandy's going to put it in the bulletin. I know we advertise for Todd's positions, but man, if I was a young county kid, this is where I want to work. I want to work on Todd's team, and I want to come back later. The same thing Donovan did, or Emerson. Like these are great kids to come in, cut your teeth, hanging out with Todd and their excellent crew, and then let's give you a career after. So encourage your friends, kids, to apply, because I think Todd does an excellent job with his crew.
Thank you for that, Matt. Any other comments or questions? Holly, please.
Good morning, Todd. Question about the ASB next week. Is there a plan for the Friday? Given that we're flying out quite late in the day?
Yeah, it'll be kind of a slow morning, unfortunately. Airports are kind of a mess right now. I don't think Grand Prairie will be. It's on the way home, but Calgary on the way there, it'll be a mess getting through security. I'm not really sure. I don't really follow that kind of wise, but so yeah, we'll have kind of a boring morning probably. I don't know if there's really anything to tour, but I could ask the Grand Prairie people if they have some neat things. If there's a theme that you want to go and see, Grand Prairie has a lot of community funded projects.
Pulp mill, maybe.
What's that?
Maybe a pulp mill.
We could. I could try. We're from the south, so we don't see those kinds of things.
No, whatever that is. Yeah.
You know what? I'll try. That's not a bad idea. Maybe a quick morning something.
I know some people up there too that, well, I mean, you do too, so you'll be good, but yeah, sure. We'll talk after.
Yeah, good idea. And really good idea. I wasn't exactly sure. I think we fly at 4, so we'll have to be at the airport by kind of 1:30, 2 o'clock. And that kind of makes us leaving our hotel by like 12:30, 1:45 kind of thing. It's a decent jaunt in a taxi cab or whatever. But yeah, so it's going to be kind of the whole morning. So maybe if we can get to someplace by 8:30, 9 o'clock, it might be a good 3 hours to learn. Not a bad idea.
Okay. Good thought. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you, Todd, for your report this morning. We will go to item number 9.2, the RMA Spring 2023 Convention, March 20th to 22nd, meetings with ministers. Ariana, please.
All right. So I've provided the details. Hotel rooms have been booked at the same hotel as last time, which is convenient. This is mostly about determining which ministers you want to meet with. So municipal affairs, they're looking for people to ask for the meeting. We have to send that in by tomorrow. And then Staff Sergeant Yetman from the Berks RCMP was wanting to know if we wanted to meet with the commanding officer of K Division while we're up there. And same thing, if we want to meet any topics. That one, they also want to know reasons why we wouldn't want to meet with them, but I think in the past it's been because they're doing a great job and we have no issues to bring up. So that's what I'm looking for.
I guess we could still meet with them and tell them that too, which if it's up to council, I would suggest we add transportation on there maybe, because I think there are several different matters regarding transportation that come up from time to time. Greg, please.
Yeah, I'd like to set up tourism too, and probably have Adina part of that, because you're on the tourism board, right? Yeah, and I'd like to be on that also. Okay. So yeah, if we can set that one up.
What were the topics on that one?
Topics, I would say the pathways. And I would probably see if we can somehow connect Tilbrook campground to the aqueduct or NCDC if possible, in those type of topics.
Okay, Adina and then Holly, please. Oh, okay, Holly. Oh, okay.
Under transportation, I'd like to make it one of the topics, the 36 number 1 overpass potential.
And Fisher Bridge, go ahead, please, Adina.
With the tourism thing, would that be a time to talk to them about Steveville Bridge? The Steveville access? Tourism, is it? That's parks. That's parks. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Thanks, Neil.
I think it's important we keep our communication open with our two favorite ministers, Nate and Jason, and pound away on this irrigation expansion, because I think I sent it out to you guys, they're spending close to $1 billion up in special areas. They really could do that. If they spent that money here, probably develop twice as many acres. So we have to keep and they are spending money here, but it's so important to the area. I think we just, every time we can, even if there's not an issue, just meet with them to see what's going on, what's in the wind, and tell them we're here to help.
Okay, so that'll be a topic for agriculture and irrigation, and I suppose CDC South might be, although those are ongoing discussions, so that's mostly incidental, I guess, if it comes up. I think with regard to transportation, another thought might be, we have had the idea of connecting Highway 56 and 845 with a bridge at Crowfoot. I've heard that raised other places recently, so that could be on the agenda as well with transportation, as well as the overlay on 873, because we are talking about that. Is that the right number, Matt? Right? Yeah. And the pathway could be on there too, because that'll spread out traffic. Yeah, you bet. Yeah.
Don't we have to narrow it down to like 3 or 4?
Pardon me?
Do we have to narrow down to 3 or 4 when you, for the Minister of Transportation, don't they ask for like 3 or 4?
Yeah, how many? Okay, Matt, please.
It'll be a new minister. I know the first kick at the can we had with the old Minister of Transportation, we have raised the number 36 and number 1 interchange, and that's all going to be based on traffic counts. So once the volume's there, you'll get an interchange. Fisher Bridge, what we heard there was condition assessment. The thing is over 100 years old. We've talked about the economic development spend. So those could be ones that you remove if you're looking to whittle down the list. You could go number 56 and 845. We haven't flagged before for them. Pathway. Kinbrook overlay.
Yeah, I'm not, I guess correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not too concerned about a few extra items on there either, because some of those are being discussed from other angles too, I believe. So it doesn't hurt for them to be on, like, we don't need to spend much time on them, but they'll have the notes on that too. So I wouldn't necessarily shorten it unless we think we need to, but go ahead, Holly.
Well, I guess a 36 and 1 for two reasons. One is because of SAWA, that's a piece that ties in together. So I think it's important that we're hitting it from different angles, as well as an issue that PEP has talked about working on as well, if in joint with the county, which I think Arno will address at a later time, but I think it needs to be on there for other areas, other discussions.
Right, and maybe we'll talk about that PEP item at the end of this one if we could. Neil?
Yeah, thanks for reminding me, Holly. Which minister would we bring SAWA up with? That's kind of environment, I think, yeah. Like that's a big economic driver here if we can get it. Yeah.
Would that be Brian Jean, environment? Or no, he's.
No.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know. That's a good question. I think environment probably would be the front. Matt, is that right? Or?
Yeah, Minister Jane would be jobs, economy, and northern development. So if you're looking at it from the economic development point of view, it might be all right to try to get a meeting with Minister Jane.
Is she environment?
Yeah, environment is Minister Savage.
Yeah, I think. So we have health, agriculture, and irrigation, environment and parks, seniors and housing and transportation. Those are will be our requests, right? Oh, and municipal affairs. What are, yeah. So it's a long drive. Well, we have six different ministries. The ones listed in Ariana's notes, as well as transportation and municipal affairs. Right? We might not get them all. No, that's right.
You guys need to work while you're up there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're driving 4 hours. They'll be happy to see us. Neil?
What about supper or something with our MLA?
It's a good idea.
She'll be there.
Not at the Lux. Oh. Okay. Can we move on? Any other items we need to add? Ariana, are we short somewhere here?
Sorry, I just missed. Did you want a meeting with municipal affairs, or that was the only one with a deadline for requests?
Oh, right. That was a question. What would be the topics with municipal affairs? Matt, have you got a thought on that?
I mean, a general update from municipal affairs, where they're at on all the files that they've been working on, most specifically the assessment model review.
Yes.
Could we please get an answer to whether we need to worry about that anymore or not? I know Minister McIver was working pretty hard to wrap that up, but I have heard nothing on that.
And that's pretty important to us too. I think that should be on there. And if there aren't any other matters on the agenda with that meeting, I think that's fine. But I think that's a good point. I think we should try to get with municipal affairs on that. And we can always add some other topics in the next month if we think of them, right? Or if they occur. Okay. You good with that, Ariana? Okay. Thank you. And we're going to meet with K Division as well, or go with that, right? Yeah, we'll. Okay, the other thing I was going to raise in relation to this, and Holly reminded me of it with regard to PEP, is that I did get a call from the chairman of PEP, Doug Jones, asking for a letter of support for the Highway 36 number one overpass, just supporting that as a priority is something that's important to us, which it is. I think we know some of the factors around it, but I think in talking to Doug about it, one of the things that, some of these things get moved forward sometimes a little faster than the formula might move them forward under certain circumstances, and we might qualify for some of those if we raise it. So could I get a motion indicating support or else denial of the PEP has asked for a motion or a letter of support for Highway 136 overpass. Neil?
Yeah, if you need a motion, but I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, okay.
I can't say no.
I assumed it, but I didn't want to assume it. I think it's important that council's aware. All in favor of that, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Holly, please.
With that, I believe they were requesting the county commit $5,000 to that as well. With that, that was a...
Okay, that was a request. Matt has comments on that.
So I would suggest if PEP wants to make a funding request, that they make a formal funding request with some details to the county on what their proposed plan is. I would recommend a general letter of support for the project. I think is fine, but the email I saw from PEP wasn't really detailed in terms of what they were setting out to do or the value add. It was a general email about looking at alignment, and I think Alberta Transportation probably has enough engineers to figure out an alignment. It's really, can we get the political will to get that thing off the ground and maybe get it built before Sewa is, knock on wood, invested in? But I would ask for that from Walter, that he provides a detailed plan for us before we commit 5,000.
Okay, thanks. Holly, please go ahead. Thanks, Matt.
I think that has been a bit rushed because the grant had to be in by today. So I think they were just trying to get some things together. So I'd hope something more substantial would be arriving on that front. I'm not sure.
For matching dollars? Or
this was new to me yesterday.
Yeah,
I was not part of the discussion. I looked at basically what is this? So I'm a little, that really should have come to us a little earlier in the game, but it didn't. So I don't know much more than that either.
Well, I think that's why I brought it to council, because some of that, and I think that's perspective that we simply, that may be there at some point, but we need more information. And I think the other thing, and that's what I did commit to too, is there are a number of fronts where we can maybe add some urgency to this particular file, and we're doing that when we meet with the Transportation Minister, when we meet with the Environment Minister, talking about SAWA and our MLA as well. So I think we can raise the profile on that in a number of ways. So, and I think, there are a number of different groups working on that. There is also a Veterans Highway committee that would see this as important as well. So, yeah. Okay. I don't think we need a motion on that. We'll just, or Neil made. Oh, Neil? Yeah, we took the vote. We took the vote to send a letter. Yeah. I have no direction. We haven't had a direction to send funding. And we'll just, unless there is direction to send funding, we'll let that rest for now. Okay. All in favor of Neil's motion that we send a letter in support of Highway 136 overpass to PEP? That's carried. Thank you. I know we did. Yeah. So that's 20 votes now. That's pretty. Moving on to item number 9.3, letter from Rocky View County Joint Advocacy for Improved Solar Farm Governance. Director of Corporate Services, welcome, Lane.
Thank you. This is an interesting topic, and it's obvious that the County of Newell isn't the only location in the province where they're experiencing some pressures with the development of major solar projects. Just leading into the discussion here, I guess, I want to share a few thoughts for Council to consider. When it comes right down to it, the real question that Council needs to determine during your discussion is whether or not you think that the process as it's in place right now is working and working as it should, or if it needs to be fine-tuned a little bit, or if it's broken and needs to be replaced. A little bit of history on a related matter that I can share with you. In late 1990s, I went to work with the County of Lethbridge. Now, when you look at the StatsCan census results for farm gate receipts, the County of Lethbridge is the #1 jurisdiction in Canada when it comes to the dollar value of farm gate receipts that are generated. And that was certainly the case before I started working with Lethbridge. During the time that I was there was a significant expansion in the intensive livestock industry. Right now, Council or MPC periodically receives notifications from NRCB about expansions or adjustments that are taking place in livestock facilities within the County of Newell. That process has not always been in place. In the 90s, municipalities had full responsibility for issuing approvals for intensive livestock operations. And Alberta Agriculture at that time had set direction in place that they wanted a significant expansion of all farm products, international as well as within Canada. Taiwan Sugar Corporation, international corporation, came to Alberta with plans to construct a very large hog production facility out in County 40 Mile. Remote area, far from anywhere. It was a large facility though. And at the same time, they applied for developing a hog processing plant in the city of Lethbridge. So both of those things were going on, and the public went wild. In Lethbridge, the city of Lethbridge held a public hearing for that hog production facility. That public hearing started, I think, at 5 o'clock in the evening. It was held in the NMAX Sports Center because there wasn't enough room anywhere else for the public to come out and present. And it went on until just about midnight. People opposing that hog processing facility. A similar thing was taking place in 40 Mile with people opposing the hog production facility there. In the end, both of those projects got turfed by those respective authorities. County of Newell was experiencing significant expansion of feedlot facilities, and every time an application came in, it would receive approval and then would be appealed to the local development appeal board. And again, the public would come out. There was all kinds of resistance. And in the end, the province stepped in and took over responsibility for approval of livestock production province-wide. And the NRCB was the authority that took over that responsibility. So that just provides some history for you as to what's happened then and what's potentially coming at you now when it comes to the development of solar facilities throughout the province. As it stands right now, the AUC is the governing authority when it comes, or the regulatory authority when it comes to granting approvals. But there is an opportunity for municipalities to provide some input in that process. I suggest that if there is concerns with the way the process is working right now, this is an appropriate time to express those concerns and decide if you're prepared to unite with other rural municipalities and see if there is a better way to approach the approval of those projects. That just provides a bit of an overview for you on how things have developed in another area. This is certainly a planning and development matter that I think you need to engage with your planning and development staff on as well. So open for discussion on this particular item.
Okay, thank you for that, Lane. Neil, go ahead. Were you going to take us through this further, or that's just?
Well, the information is there.
Yeah.
Rocky View County has
Invited us to be part of the
correct,
process.
and they've reached out to a number of other municipalities as well.
Yeah, okay. Neil, go ahead, and then Kelly.
I just wonder what problems do we have other than every time there's a solar farm, there'll be half a dozen people come in, obviously upset. We really haven't experienced anything except a huge bank account increase. Why do we want to muddy the waters?
Okay, Lane, did you have a comment to that?
Well, I'm not suggesting that you do need to or want to muddy the waters. My point was, it may be working and it may be working well enough for you. You might want to tinker with it, or if you feel it's broken and needs to be fixed, then it's time to get involved. I'm not suggesting one way or another. Which of those your position would be.
Okay, Kelly, you have some comments? I do too, but
Yeah.
please.
So the question is, do you want to join a coalition? And my answer would be no. From my experience, we have not had a huge negative experience through AUC discussions. They have, once we learned the process, which was a learning curve in the beginning, we were able to, we're now have a conversation and we have a voice. And Maria, correct me if I'm wrong, but you do join the conversation at an earlier stage than what we used to. Is that correct? Yes. So, and then my fear around joining a coalition is you have no idea where those people want to go with their, or how deep or how involved they want to be. It all comes back to the NIMBYs, not in my backyard people. And it's business. And if we have a governing body with a voice at the table, I am personally happy with the way the project is going along. My experience.
Okay, thank you. Greg, please.
I agree with Kelly, and I think that in order for us to join this coalition, we're going to have to think about, is AUC not doing their job sufficiently? And I haven't seen any indication that they haven't been doing their job sufficiently. Notices are done to, or given out to the municipalities in the area around these solar farms. The people are listened to, from what I've understood. I don't see a reason why AUC hasn't been doing their job properly. For us to get into that part of it is, I mean, we are responsible to our ratepayers, and we are responsible to our landowners. Our landowners, you know, they know what's right for their land, I think. And because all the regulations are done properly through AUC, then, you know, joining this coalition, I don't think is the best thing for, that's my thought, best thing for us to go.
Okay, thank you. Holly, go ahead. I'll delay my comments.
Slightly different. I don't see a lot of issues that we've had. I think Neil seems to have a very good company working in his area. I'm not sure seeing quite the same response from some other ones, but it could also have been COVID that played on that. I guess if we don't go with this, one thing that really interests me, I think, would be the shelter from financial liability down the road. And that is something we do have to explore, that we don't know what the cleanup will be, just like oil wells, they didn't put enough aside, and gas wells, and the taxpayers eating it down the road, right, or the county, whoever. So that was a problem that was not picked up in time. But if we don't go with this, I'd like to see us then file for intervenor status for all the developments. We may never have a role in it, but at least then we have the ability to have a say should an issue arise. So I think we have to look at, if we don't do this, then doing something else.
Okay, thank you. Lane, you suggested, and I'd like to hear other comments from our development team, Jeff or Maria, with regard to how the process is working. And I think a concern that I have, or a thought that I have with regard to this is, there are advertisements in Southern Alberta papers. They're probably all across the province for anyone who is interested in, has a potential site for a solar farm. There doesn't seem to be any scope of how big this could get. I still consider us, as the municipalities, to be the front line of consideration for what our landscape looks like and what it looks like years from now. I think a concern that I have is with regard to what happens at the end of these facilities. We know that it isn't reliable power. It just isn't. With every installation that goes in, there needs to be an equal amount of availability to flip a switch. So that's probably natural gas developed power, which I think is a double build. I think we've had some observation over the years of what happens with transmission. I think the indication is that I've heard that some of the transmission that's gone into it's huge transmission capability, but we might be overbuilt and it's going to be expensive. Who's going to pay for this into the future? I think we need a better set of information and basis on which some of this is happening. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I don't think there's enough variation with regard to how this is going to play out in the future that I think we need a better process. I don't disagree at all that we need to better understand what Rocky View is proposing here with regard to getting involved with them. But I do think we need more information, because there's just a rush of these proposals coming to us, and what are they going to do when the sun's not shining? Like, it's just a double build. But Maria or Jeff, do you have comments with regard to where you see some of this? I know that Lane encouraged some comments from you, so I'd be interested to hear what you think.
I think there's pros and cons to the process, how it's going now, and I think there are always room for improvement. In talking with Lane and Jeff, the current process we have, it's really the AUC makes the decision, and we have very limited ability to alter that. I think the AUC has a lot of expertise. They look at the social, economic, environmental aspects. They have professionals who look at that from all angles. I do think that we have the local perspective that the AUC doesn't have. And maybe that's part of our voice that's missing. I think the county is a bit unique, and I actually was speaking to a construction manager about how facilities are constructed. I know there's another municipality south of us that had some problems with a company that had stripped the land, and then there was problems with seed mix. There was a federal decision made on what needed to be done, and they didn't take into consideration what the local recommendation would be. Fortunately, we haven't run into that. It's my understanding that site stripping happens when there's a lot of contours in the land. We are fortunately fairly flat, so And so far, all of our solar facilities have been minimal disturbance. So I guess that's maybe something that is what we can, or something that we can consider putting in when we register as an intervener, that, you know, we would like minimal disturbance practices, or that's maybe a policy we could put into our municipal development plan, that where it works, you know, these are the things that we'd like to consider. Right now, when we register as an intervener, we need to give reasons for why we're interested. So I always put that we would like the AUC to consider our land use bylaw and our municipal development plan. And that at least gives us something should we want to go get more into the process, that we can, you know, fall back on some of those policies. So I guess that's maybe where we're a little lacking, is the local voice. I know for gravel pits and different things like that, there could be a reclamation condition put on a development permit. So that's something that I could look into further. What council or what municipal planning commission has is the ability to put as a condition for reclamation for solar facilities. Right now, I know the AUC does require a reclamation plan. I don't know if that plan has to come with a dollar figure. So, you know, that's something that maybe we need to consider. And in talking with Lane, is this something that maybe will fall back on the county in 30 years, 40 years, when a solar facility is no longer up and running, it's decrepit, it's, you know, just on the land now as a scar? Is there a potential for the county to take that back as a tax recovery, and now the municipality is responsible for that cleanup? And that's something we don't know. That's, you know, that's maybe something we could work towards preparing ourselves for, if that is a thing. I know solar companies will say, well, how does it work for oil and gas? And I think that those are two different things, in the sense that a landowner is able to enter into a lease agreement and allow a solar company to enter their land. So that is a decision made by that landowner. Oil and gas is a little bit different. That's a kind of a decision made, I guess, at a higher level. So I think there's a lot to consider. As far as the coalition, I agree. I don't think that there's a lot of detail as far as what the concern is. I'm sure there's more to add.
Thanks, Maria. Jeff, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I think Maria covered and Lane have covered this off really well. Lane brought up, you know, there are a number of overarching regulators that kind of supersede our municipal authority when it comes to permitting the development in the county. The NRCB is one, which we have very limited input into, other than notification when they approve something. There's the AER, the Alberta Energy Regulator, that regulates oil and gas developments, which we have zero input into. And then there's the AUC, where, you know, we've done a lot of learning over the last 6 years since Solarcraft came with their first application in the Castles area. But looking back through our experiences, and I know we hear lots from other locations, County of 40 Mile, we get this advocacy request from Rocky View County, but we just haven't dealt with any operational, any nuisance issues that have been discovered in any of the developments that we've come across. The one thing that the Councillor Johnson alluded to that we do come into contest with a little bit is an industrial scale solar facility a nuisance to an adjacent residential development. And that's really the heart of what we've been doing and dealing with through all of the applications for industrial scale solar, is the effect that it has on the adjacent land. And through the permitting process and through the AUC's process, it seems that, you know, that solar panel isn't a hazardous, isn't a noisy, isn't a dusty, smoky
development that creates nuisance because it does get permitted beside residential all the time. The Rocky View letter talks about two things primarily. It's siting and it's reclamation. Do I think there could be some clarity on the reclamation? And like Maria says, the AUC does require a plan, but clarity on if that plan is funded or how it's funded throughout the life of the development would certainly be great information. Would it be great that, you know, somebody would kind of pen out and put pen to paper and show local municipalities what the process is, where their opportunities are to get involved, where they can become an intervener, how they know that an AUC application has been filed in their municipality. All that information would be great, but like Lane and Maria and some of council here, I'm just not sure that we've seen any of these issues. I think some of the benefits of the AUC process are they require public consultation by the applicant before anything happens. They go out to the public, they have the open houses, they you know, engage the adjacent landowners, they engage the utility companies, and they kind of do a lot of that heavy lifting on our behalf, and they deal with the public consultation, and that's where the AUC has made the determination that, you know, it's not really a use that is detrimental to a neighboring residential property. And I think that's one of the main things that needs to be defined. Now, if being involved in siting has to do with, you know, something that is pegged for future residential use in an area structure plan or future commercial use in the municipal development plan, and the AUC is not listening to that, then yeah, I think there's definitely an issue and a concern. But again, nothing that we've run up against as an issue. So do I think there's room for improvement? Do I think there's room for more municipal involvement in the process? Yeah, probably, definitely clarification. I'm just not sure to what degree and what the intent of the advocacy campaign is fully.
So I think what I'm hearing, and I would agree, I mean, we haven't had a lot of detrimental impacts other than we've had resistance to some siting, and it might be mostly not in my backyard, but I think what we are seeing is a rapid expansion of the amount of this kind of infrastructure that is going in. And I think there's unanswered questions around it. I think the reclamation issue is a big one. If you look at what's happened with oil and gas activity, I mean, it's one of the things that has limited further expansion is because the reclamation wasn't well thought out, and it's as simple as selling the asset to something that can be allowed to go down. And then who is responsible? And probably it will be a combination of the province and the county. And, you know, the money is good. It's good for the landowner, it's good for us, but I still think there are issues around reclamation that I think we need further clarification from this group. Let's maybe try to get that in. I would be interested in that. And I think the matter of reclamation is a concern to us and should be. We're being naive if we don't pay attention to that, because frankly, I don't want future councils to look back at the council of 2023 to 20 or 22 to 21 to 25 or whatever and say, you know, we're kind of asleep at the wheel, and we wouldn't be alone if we were. It's real easy to say, yeah, we just like the money, but I think we need good answers. I think we're in a position to push for that, because at the end of the day, it is the county that is, as a group, we are the ones who are the keepers of the landscape. Not more than the landowners by any means, but we are daily or monthly approving land uses that are supposed to look into the future and consider the whole economy. And I think this is one that has potential there's uncertainty around it. So I think it's due diligence on our part to say, yeah, let's find out what this group is interested in. And we know that at RMA there are resolutions that come forward that are concerned about some of this. So I think for us we're burying our heads in the sand if we just say, oh, we like the money, let's go. I don't think that's the right answer. Matt, please.
Yeah, so just for some additional clarification, we did receive another email. We tried to attach that first thing this morning to the package. So you probably haven't had enough time to read through all of that. But the two key issues that Rocky View County has flagged is the reclamation. So let's get a process in place for what does reclamation look like? Not a bad thing. And the other one was, the AUC is not required currently to consider your municipal land use bylaws, your statutory land use plans. Like, they might look at it, but they're not required to. So that governance piece that might give you more influence. And I think we've really been the beneficiaries of good development so far in the county, but we do have that reclamation coming at us. Rocky View sent this out to the 27 municipalities in Zone 2 and Zone 1 in the province. So they're really looking to support that resolution that was passed back in the fall for the reclamation piece, right? So if they can get everybody to chip in 10,000, and I think we, as a county who have experienced good development, might have something to offer. So closing the door on participation, I kind of fear, because you might have folks going for things that you might not necessarily be in agreement with. So doesn't matter what side you're on, I think there's probably some value to participating. What that looks like, we get back to Rocky View. Hopefully there's others who participate, and you've got a crew who can hire the consultant. The consultant's going to do the heavy lifting. There might be an opportunity to appoint a member to a steering committee to get that going. But I think we've had some valuable experience in the county, and in my view, it wouldn't be a bad thing to participate, and it might be a good thing for those folks 30 years down the road to know how things are going to get cleaned up.
That's a good point. Thanks, Matt. Neil?
Yeah, I'm not just after the money.
Sorry?
But you keep alluding that it's just money. It isn't. No. I'm the only one here, one of the few in the county that actually signed one of those contracts. There's a reclamation, probably 2 pages of reclamation in there. If you want, I think we should get a solar company in here and ask them how they clean up. On a solar farm, there's no chemicals, there's no nothing. No. You clean it up by getting a hi-ho and picking the steel back out of the ground, hauling it in and getting paid for it. It's an overreaction, and I'd rather just get a solar company in here and get somebody that's opposed to it here, because the reclamation is the big one. They can tell us how they're going to do it, and it makes sense.
Okay, thanks, Neil. Kelly?
And good points have been made. I want to go back to my point about joining a coalition. You don't know what direction they're going to go in. And by putting money into it, you're indicating that something is wrong, in my opinion. And I don't feel, other than a couple of points that staff has brought up, and great points, good to have that input, and we can take that to the AUC directly. We don't need to put money into it to do this.
Okay, thank you. Ellen?
I see it a little differently. I think that we should do our due diligence, and $10,000 in the end, and I'm not saying one way or the other, may be a very good investment for the future.
Okay, thank you. Lynette, please.
I would just question the value of having a third party come in. Like, isn't that what we do with resolutions through the RMA, is to, like, what would that third party actually do for the $10,000?
Okay, Matt, you're Holly? Matt, you could
answer that. So that will be attachment 2023-0105, Solar Advocacy Campaign Scope of Work. So the objectives here, to get the government to develop an overarching policy framework regarding alternative energy generation facilities that ends up granting municipalities increased influence on locational decisions. So Politicians, we've had the resolution, supported it. Now it's boots on the ground. Somebody's actually got to do the work, meet with ministers, do the research, come up with a program, a process. And so it's really the consultant who's going to do the heavy lifting, right? That's what the $10,000 goes towards, is putting a contract out and getting somebody who's got some time and some smarts to outline some different strategies that can then be advocated for specifically.
Thanks, Matt. Holly, please.
I guess in the issue of reclamation, I don't think it's that simple. I don't think they really know yet. That's kind of part of the problem. There are heavy metals in the construction of solar panels, that's clear. But how much there is, how they're going to clean it up, I've read reports on both sides. So I think there's still the unknown, which we need to be aware of and explore as well. I do think reclamation, I just look at the oil and gas. Oh no, don't worry, it's going to be just fine. These oil companies are making so much money, they'll clean everything up. That did not happen.
Thanks. Matt, you want to comment on that?
Just a quick note, like I know we've focused on solar, but this is for the entire renewable energy portfolio, right? So whether it's wind, solar.
This is.
Yeah.
Kelly, please.
Drawing your attention back to the advocacy campaign scope, which is in our packages, create and manage a steering committee. So you fund this $10,000, you don't even know what direction that steering committee is going in at this point. You don't know where that opinion, what direction that is going. So I'm not in favor of this $10,000 input. We have our opinion, we have our experience, and we have our voice. We can go straight to the AUC.
Okay, appreciate your perspective. Personally, I think that I'm not prepared to give them $10,000 today, maybe. I think we maybe need some more information. I think it's good advice to understand the direction this is going to go, or how understand maybe better how it will be driven. But I really think this is a big enough issue that in the interests of really not coming out against it, I think we need, I'm not opposed to solar power. I think it's great if we can find a way to be to ensure that it's serving us well into the future. But I do think this is a big enough issue coming at us, and I think I would agree that we've had good experiences around this. I'm not negative to any of that, but the volume of activity that's coming at us at some point, and I've seen this, and I referenced the transmission issues. It's difficult to get good answers to some of these things at times, and there are outside, well-funded interests that drive opinion on this kind of thing. And I just think that as the keepers of the landscape, it's worth spending a little bit of resource and effort to know that long term we did the best we could to say this is good for us, or there's a better way to approach some of this. So I like the fact that they actually want to create a group of like-minded municipalities to say, how do we do this? I don't disagree that we need to understand what direction it's going and that it's not a blank ticket in any way. But I think the fact that this has come at us is an opportunity to try to do something good for our ratepayers long term, even if we don't change outcomes, if we better understand where we're going. At this point, I think we don't have good answers. I think that Neil's suggestion of having a solar company come in and talk to us about it is a good one. That's a good thing. I think it would be educational for us as well. So Kelly, go ahead.
One final comment I want to make is about the market. At some point, the market is going to decide, just like it did with the feedlot situation in the 90s. The market decides what the future of the industry is going to be. And whether it's privately funded or government funded, that's another discussion. But the market is going to decide the outcome of this industry.
No question, I would agree. And I think that's where the concern is, because if the market changes significantly. We have a huge infrastructure initiative that we're going to look at for quite a while, till it either serves us well or goes away. And those are some things that I think we could better understand. Holly, please.
Just a couple of quick points. In Germany, they're taking down some of the wind turbines to make the coal mines bigger. So things do change faster than I think they might. So we don't know how this is going to play out. And if you drive down, you know, from BC on the Highway 3, a lot of the scenery looks so different, those huge wind towers there. And I think, did they have a vision for what they wanted? Did they really have a plan? So I know you're coming from, Kelly, joining and you kind of go, where's it going to go? But the other side of that is this way might have more of a say. Having dealt with the AUC, I would not call them a responsive body. They're very bureaucratic, and the AUC does not work in the favor of the small guy. That's been my experience with gas and oil. So I can see you're coming from, but I would go with it's a positive to get more information, potentially getting involved, because the downside could be much greater than what we think it is.
Are you prepared to make a motion like that? Because I think there's a couple of things maybe that could be considered in this. Is one, hear from a solar company. That gives us time for that. I think it gives us opportunity to get more information with regard to where this is headed and what the initiative looks like, and a little bit of time to say, how do we settle on a good decision longer term for this, is what I would want us to look for.
Well, we do have one more meeting before I believe they want the response by early February. We do another meeting. So is it feasible to have that happen at the next meeting, Matt? We can get more information and get someone here from the solar company potentially to speak to it.
Yeah, we've got some contacts that we can reach out to on the solar company reclamation process. I think there's some folks who'd be happy to provide some education for council in that regard. And, putting it off to next meeting would give council more time to read through that additional information that you just got this morning and probably haven't had a chance to read. So you could entertain tabling it till then.
Okay, I'm looking for direction at this point. Holly,
I'd make them, sorry.
Those are my comments, was that number one, we should get some solar reps in here to give us the information and try to answer the questions for us. Two, we should meet with Rocky View, talk to them and to find out if we actually are like-minded counties. So with that, I think we should table this till next meeting and hopefully get solar in to give us some information ahead of time. And then maybe we can meet up with Rocky View at ASB and chat with them and find out if what their plans are for this, and to find out if we are indeed like-minded individuals or like-minded counties. Sorry.
Okay, so did you make a motion, Holly? No.
I'd like to make a motion that we refer this to the next meeting for more time, table it for more time for information gathering. Good
information, or that I'll accept that motion. All in favor that we table, please indicate. That's carried. We got done this one before noon. And I guess I think the fact that we have multiple perspectives on this is a healthy thing. If we all thought the same way, we'd only need one of us, right? We'll discuss that later in the meeting. So, okay, segue to lunch. At least three. Yeah, that's right.